Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, back with another episode of Road to 1000 DuelingBook rating. This time we are playing Lunalight Orcust once again versus Salamangreat. So yeah, we're going back to our roots here and playing a Lunalight variant. We're going with the Orcust build this time, simply because it is the most prevalent build in the metagame currently, and I do believe that the Orcust engine is strong enough to justify playing it, considering that it's being clamored for it to be banned or hit in a pretty significant way by the majority of the community. So yeah, with Orcust being as strong as it is, if you have the means to include the engine, might as well, right? So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the gameplay here. We do win the rock, paper, scissors, so we opt to go first. And our hand is pretty strong here, as we have the Chick Tiger combo plus, multiple extenders in the form of Perfume. In this build, I was testing out Infinite Impermanence as kind of the flex spot. You typically have about like 3 to 4 spots where you can sort of freely choose what non-engine cards you want to play, whether it be Call by the Grave or like a Hand Trap or a main deck like Twin Twister or Into the Void or whatever you want to play. In this case, I opted to go for Impermanence at the time, simply because it was just good as a defensive card going first, and it just as a generic Hand Trap going second that didn't lose to like Call by the Grave and stuff. But anyways, he does have a Veiler in his hand, which normally doesn't matter too much, but in certain situations, if they hit the Nyarla, it actually hurts because it makes it so that your materials are stuck underneath the Azathoth, so you can't really easily revive them back off like Tiger or Perfume and stuff. And sometimes not getting access to the Serenade Dance as well, like using Nyarla to detach the Martin as an effect, it can actually be a bit of a hindrance, but in this case, we have enough extenders to the where it shouldn't really affect us too badly. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the play right here. So Chick sending Martin is pretty standard, of course, and we're going to go ahead and use Perfume to bring back the Martin. I opt to actually use the Perfume here, first off to just check for Ash. You could argue that it's better to just go for the Azathoth prior to that, but I do want a monster in my hand to discard for the Nyarla. That way I have a target, obviously, to be able to use the Nyarla's second effect. So yeah, we do need a monster in the hand, and we're not going to relinquish our Tiger, of course. And our Impermanence is obviously not a monster. So yeah, we are going to use the Nyarla first effect to just get the Collider Chick in our graveyard. We're going to try and use the second effect, but he does hit us with the Veiler, which means that we can't, unfortunately, swap the materials and get the Serenade Dance. So that sucks a little bit, but it's not too big of a deal because even though our materials are stuck underneath this Azathoth here, we do have another Collider Chick in our graveyard, no problem. So with the Tiger that we hard drew, we were able to just kind of keep going here. Yeah, so I make Barricade just to be able to have a way to go into Curious. And because the card that I discarded off the first Perfume was the second copy of Perfume, it doesn't actually matter that we lost the Serenade Dance because we have an outlet to discard the Zephyrs that we're searching off the 4 tricks here. So effectively, by opening the double Perfume, we were able to just kind of play through that and get ahead of where we were supposed to be, no problem. Yeah, so searching a second copy of Tiger with that second Perfume, we were able to just go into the Curious, which allows us to go into our Orcust combo. And pretty soon here, I'm pretty sure he just scoops because he knows that we're going to be able to just basically resolve our full Orcust combo, plus have a rank 4 of choice, which in this matchup would ideally be Beastdweller, which I typically go for blind anyway, but yeah. So he scoops and we don't know what he's playing, so we don't really side too heavily here. Not that we draw side cards anyway. But he leads up with the Desires, and he draws into a Sea Archiver and hard draws a Gazelle, which is pretty insane for him. He also can just go Buffalo to pitch a Sea Archiver before committing to Silent Mining. That way he is able to just get as many cards out of his deck as he can, seeing what he's working with. He's going to Mining pitch Foxy, and he actually takes this back and he searches a Jaguar instead of a Spinny because he wants to go for the Beastdweller play. So yeah, trigger Gazelle to send a trap, and he's going to use Foxy to pitch the Jaguar to get that engraved. That way off the Stallion that he's going to make here, he can summon another level 4 and link away the Stallion instead of the, like normally it would be Jaguar, but this allows him to just go for a Beastdweller. And that is pretty difficult for this deck to deal with because obviously a lot of the engine requires the graveyard to work, so pretty rough. Because he also has a Roar, and he has Gazelle added back, and he drew a Veiler off, I believe, the Buffalo. So yeah, pretty difficult for us to deal with. We are going to try and drop the impermanence that we hard drew for turn on the Dweller, because that is the biggest threat to what we have with this given hand right here. Considering that we don't really have Lunalight cards right now, he is going to use Roar on it, which is the correct play, because Dweller is pretty much an auto win against a specific hand. So we're just going to try and roll the dice with dangers and see what we can get here. We do go into a mind control, so the plan is to try and take it, because we already forced out the Roar with the impermanence. So we're just going to try and go for a Boros Sword to just like clear as much of the board as we can. He does trigger Gazelle here, and the goal is just to try and attack over everything, but he has impermanence for the Boros Sword, so I can only clear the Dweller because he has Bailings. And his Falco gets him back the Roar, so we pretty much just scoop it up here. No real point trying to play that out because we didn't really have any Lunalight cards at all. Curious wouldn't have really fixed that problem. And yeah, it would have been pretty rough to try and play out of that. So we go first, and our hand's pretty good. He does have Lancia, which shuts off our Orcust part of our combo here, but shouldn't be too big of a deal because similar to what he did against us, Dweller shuts down his deck pretty effectively. So we're just going to scale Tiger to make sure it doesn't get lost to the danger activations, and we are pretty good to go ahead and fire off some dangers here. So Jackalope is going to trigger as well, getting the Mothman, so we are freely able to go into Nyarla Azathoth. Just in case he has more hand traps. He doesn't in this case, but Salamangreat is known for playing its bevy of hand traps, so we're going to try and play around that as much as we can. I have to use Nessie here just to see what we can try and fish for. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much in the fact that he didn't actually ever snipe this Serenade Dance, but of course we used Foolish Burial Goods at the beginning of the turn to get this Perfect Engrave to get the Serenade Dance out of our hand anyway, so not too big of a deal. Not to mention that we didn't even use our Tiger effect yet, so we are pretty good to go. I'm able to actually send a Zephyros because, send an Emerald Bird, excuse me, because of the Lancia. There's not really any point in sending Harp Horror. So yeah, the idea is to use the Emerald Bird to bring back the Yellow Marten. That way we are able to go ahead and what I would have thought have happened was just try and use the Marten potentially later on if I like linked it away, and then get the Zephyros to our hand, even though we couldn't banish the Perfume this turn because we're under Lancia. Like the idea was just maybe like make a Barricade Borg blocker and get it out of our hand and try and make a rank 4, but we milled the Zephyros off of the Curious anyway, so we are in a pretty good spot. We were able to make Appaloosa. And we have the Marten in a grave as well as the Zephyros in a grave. So we are able to, I believe, make an IP plus an Abyss Dweller, if I am not mistaken. Yep. So yeah, we haven't used Marten effect either. So we got pretty lucky off the mill off Curious, hitting the Zephyros. But yeah, that's sometimes just how the the cookie crumbles. And we leave the snake on board just so that we can link away with the IP Masquerena. So yeah, he draws another Lancia for turn, so that's not really helping him too much here. He pitches the Sanctuary off of the Signet Mining to try and get a Gazelle because he's going to normal summon this Spinny. And I just chain Dweller to the Minings because he doesn't have impermanence at this point, or he can't chain impermanence rather. He fires off a Pot of Desire just to try and fish for more cards. And he draws the Imperm to negate the IP. And I go ahead and chain the IP. Like I say that I'm thinking, but he goes ahead and does it first. But I say that I'm thinking on the Imperm. So I'm gonna chain the IP to it, and I'm actually gonna make Nightmare Phoenix because it's gonna be calling to the Appaloosa, so it can't be killed in battle. And yeah, basically it doesn't really matter too much if he triggers his Gazelle here because I'm just going to negate it. And he is going to Lancia, but I drop another negation of Appaloosa, and so he pretty much scoops from there because now my entire graveyard is unlocked as far as Perfume and Serenade Dance are concerned. I still don't have Orcust stuff, but it doesn't really matter because I'm just going to amass so many resources that playing through Ash is not really going to be that big of a deal. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this game. Pretty straightforward, honestly. The first game we just resolved our full combo. Our second game we couldn't play through Dweller, and the third game he couldn't really play through Dweller, and we were able to just play through Lancia, which is the nice part about playing an Orcust hybrid as opposed to pure Orcust, is that Lancia is not as good against these hybrid decks, which is pretty nice. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links are in the description as always. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will catch you in the next video. See you guys.